Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name's Jasper Bruce Wright and this is the 2024 Nissan Juke. Yes, this is the new 2024 model Nissan Juke, and what you will see styling-wise is actually quite similar to its predecessor, but a lot more modern. You've got Nissan's corporate face with these large LED indicator and daytime running light clusters that sweep into this black front grille. This is their V-style grille and you'll see it on all of their models. It looks really good. Your headlamp clusters still sit lower down in the bumper, and on this model you've got some great bits of styling with contrast elements to your front bumper and some lovely bits of vent and fog lights down here. Let's have a look at the side. The first thing I'd like to point out is this paintwork. Nissan call it iconic yellow, and they've brought it back from 2016 when it was a phenomenally popular colour for the Juke. You've got some really chunky black plastic cladding around your wheels. These are a lovely 19-inch wheel design with some plastic aerodynamic inserts, and these are specific to this Techno Plus trim level. Down here you've got a hybrid badge which gives you a clue as to the powertrain. You've got gloss black plastic wing mirror covers. These are electrically folding, and you've got a contrast black roof as well. You've still got the same profile of the glass house as you have on previous generations of Juke, with your rear door handle up high, quite a high shoulder line, and some lovely stylish crease work down the side of the car. Black plastic, fuel filler flap, and then these light clusters which sit very prominently on your rear quarter panel in the very corner of the car. Now, this black plastic and same contrast bit of plastic in this lower bumper is also very stylish, and realistically the Juke is absolutely staying in that incredibly stylish and quite bold segment where it makes you really look at it and go, oh yes, that is a Juke. The back end of the car is also quite sloped. Your tail glass is at a nice angle, and you've got this pinch of a spoiler in gloss black plastic, of course, that sits over it. Dark tail glass, and then your Nissan badge here as well. You've got the Juke name badge and another hybrid badge, and because this is a hybrid, you do unfortunately lose a little bit of boot capacity. The standard petrol-only Juke has a boot capacity of 422 litres, but with this being the hybrid, that drops to just 354 litres because you've got a battery under the boot floor. Now, the boot is actually a usable size and shape. It's got some of our camera gear in it today. It's got a nice flat load floor. You've got a hook for a bag over here, hook for a bag here. You've got top tethers for your ISOFIX points. Not really many other features, but it's quite a nice boxy shape. It's got a decent bit of height in it, and you've got no problem getting some shopping or a week's worth of stuff for a holiday in there. Underneath the boot floor there is a decent amount of space as well, so you've got a bit of practicality despite this being a relatively small form-factored car. Let's see what the interior's like. Getting into the back if you're an adult is very easy, but if you're a small child you may struggle because of the height of the door handle up here, so mum or dad may have to open the door for you. But once you're back here, it's actually pretty good. Especially in this segment of car, which is a B segment SUV, you don't necessarily always get a load of space, and with this seat in my own driver's position, I've actually got quite a good amount of knee room and even some headroom. Now, I am 173 centimetres or 5'7½", so I'm not the tallest of people, but I do fit back here very comfortably. The seats are a lovely squidgy foam with a nice faux leather covering over most of them, but with some stripes of Alcantara integrated into them as well. There's some lovely funky stitching patterns into it, and they are actually very supportive and very comfortable. Practicality back here is reasonable. There's no armrest in the centre though, unfortunately, but I do have a pocket in the back of both of the front seats, a small cubby down here with a USB Type-C and USB Type-A charging port above it, and then the door card will comfortably hold a large kind of 750ml bottle of water, and then there's also a little section behind it for something else. Not loads back here, but in this small segment of car, it's not really that important. You've got ISOFIX points on both of these outer seats, and realistically, if you're maybe 6 feet tall, your head will start touching that ceiling, so you'd have to slouch. And then if your driver's taller, that seat's going to be back here. You are going to have to man spread a little bit. If there's 3 small people, you can get somebody in the centre with not too much problem, but there is a bit of a hump in the floor down here, so they will have to spread their legs a little bit. For this size and class of car though, not too shabby. Let's see what it's like up front. The front has a lot more luxury in it than the back because my dashboard is wrapped in Alcantara. My steering wheel is also wrapped in leather, as are these seats, and you've got the same lovely stitching pattern as well as Juke embossed into them. The headrests are integrated, and you've actually also got some Bose speakers integrated into them too. Now, front and centre, and something that has been changed on this model lineup recently, is this. This is a 12.3-inch infotainment screen, and this is standard across all trim levels on the Juke. They've also integrated Amazon Alexa into this, so you can ask her to do things for you. All but the base trim of Juke get a large 12.3-inch digital driver's cluster as well. If you get the base trim level, which is now a Centre Premium, that is just a 7-inch driver's cluster. One thing that I do really like about this interior is I've still got physical buttons all over it. So I've got shortcut buttons for some key features for the infotainment system up here. I've got a hazard light switch, and then I've got physical climate control. Look at that. Wow. I can twist something to adjust the temperature. I can twist something to adjust the fan speed. I can put it in auto. And I've got physical buttons for my heated seats and my heated windscreen, heated rear screen, etc, etc. It's so refreshing to see some actual buttons on the central control stack of a new car. I've got loads of buttons on my steering wheel as well, and this steering wheel is a nice skinny design. It's nice to hold, and all of the materials in here as well feel really nice. I've got an automatic gearbox in this because it's the hybrid powertrain, and then down here I've got my electronic handbrake, auto hold, e-pedal and EV mode drive selector. I've got a pair of cup holders in the centre. I've got a wireless Qi charging pad down here, as well as a USB Type-C and Type-A port for charging devices. My glove box is actually really good. It's a great size, it holds a lot of stuff, and it's quite deep. And then underneath this little armrest, I've got a small cubby holder as well. And this cabin has been lifted beautifully. It's got some lovely touches in it. It looks very premium, and it really suits the slightly controversial but punchy styling that the exterior of the car has, and it brings a little bit of that party inside. Let's see how it drives. So, I am now driving the new Nissan Juke, and this hybrid powertrain has 143 PS and some torque. It does 0 to 62 miles an hour in 10.1 seconds and actually feels surprisingly pokey, thanks to the combined output of your electric motor and petrol engine. What you have in this is a 1.6 litre normally aspirated engine paired to a 4-speed automatic gearbox and an electric motor with 2 different speeds. Nissan tell you it's got 6 speeds driving it, but I disagree. If I put my foot down, the engine kicks in, makes a bit of noise, and then allows me to accelerate. You get an initial surge of power thanks to the electric element of the drivetrain, and then the engine kind of steps in and takes over once you're at a slightly higher speed. The battery of this hybrid system is 1.2 kilowatt hours, and what that means is you should actually be able to drive for a few miles in EV mode only, which can be enabled down here. Now, how does the Juke drive? Well, it's a B-segment SUV. It's not going to set your pants on fire, but that's because it's not trying to. It's not really the kind of car that you're going to buy if you're a keen driver, but it's the kind of car that you'd buy if you had a small family and needed to be able to cart things about. And actually, it's very competent for that. Nissan basically defined this segment, and realistically, their products do a pretty good job of performing in it. The steering feels relatively sharp, it feels pretty direct, and actually the chassis in this, especially with it being on larger wheels, does feel pretty firm and like you could chuck it into a couple of corners relatively quickly if you really wanted to. The suspension feels pretty reasonable, it soaks up bumps in the road quite well, but because you've got larger alloys on this trim level, you do get a bit more noise coming through to the cabin. There's an element of noise from the 1.6 litre engine as well, but that's quite a subtle background hum unless you're really pushing the car. The Juke has also recently been updated with a massive array of safety systems and technology as part of new legislation. So this comes with speed sign recognition, adaptive cruise control, and a lot of features like lane keep assist that are there to kind of help you as a driver and make sure that you and whoever you're transporting is safe. And I must say, Nissan systems do a pretty good job. They're not particularly intrusive. They do just remind you if you're, say, straying over the speed limit or towards a white line, but they don't kind of shout at you too much. Also, the infotainment setup we've got in here is fantastic. This central screen is brilliant. You've got wireless CarPlay and Android Auto for this central screen, and this digital gauge cluster is brilliant. It's really clear, the graphics are great, it's good at showing you all the information you need, and actually, despite being digital, it still has quite a refreshingly analog display to it. So you've got your power meter on the left and your speedometer on the right. Despite the exterior of the car being quite boundary pushing and the interior styling being really quite funky and new, the gauge cluster is refreshingly familiar. And what this car does is a very good job of catering to anyone and everyone who just wants a crossover in this segment. It is a very good all-rounder. While not being kind of outstanding in any particular feature, it does everything very well. Nissan's pricing has altered slightly as a result of the recent massive changes to this car and the revisioning of some trim levels, and what that means is that the Juke is now available from about £22,500 up to £32,500 depending on your trim level and engine that you go for. But of course, check with Nissan or your local dealer to actually find out how much the one you would like would cost you. Let's go back and conclude. So that is the new Nissan Juke. I think it's fair to say this does a pretty good job of just being a good all-rounder in this small crossover SUV segment. If you like how this car looks, go and test drive one. You will like it as a purchase. If you're not a fan of how it looks, maybe look at other vehicles in this segment, but this is a good all-rounder. That is everything for today's video, so thank you so much for watching. There are a few ways you can support the channel, the first of which is by following us on all of our social medias. They are linked in the video description. The second of which is also linked in the video description, and it is our merch store. You can buy some lovely buckle up merch there to look very fresh in. The third way is you can become a channel member directly here on YouTube. While you're down there, if you haven't already, please do remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the Buckle Up YouTube channel. My name's Jasper, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!